like to welcome each and every one of you to this evening's late afternoon's agenda meeting, where we will be reviewing the action items that we formally address next Tuesday evening, July 16th, right here at City Hall at 6 p.m. And sitting in for a city manager is Deputy City Manager Lance Spitzer, and he'll walk us through those action items. Lance?
Thank you, Mayor. The agenda that will be presented is relatively brief, but we do have for this particular meeting, recognition of guests. We have Mr. Gary Troutman, President and CEO of the Greater Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and the Hot Springs Metro Partnership, and he will be delivering the Economic Development Report. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Lance. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, Board. Hope everyone's doing okay. Report since we met last time. We have reconvened the Transportation Committee with Chris Polycron as chair of that committee. And it just reminds you all, if you don't know, Chris was president of the National Association of Realtors about 7 years ago. And they don't just hand that title out. I believe there's like 1.4 million realtors in the country. So it was pretty prestigious. President Clinton swore him in, but you'll also recall that Chris was really good friends with Tom Schick, who we lost a couple years ago, and we've been a recipient of a lot of great highway projects because of Tom's passion for Hot Springs. So we felt it was important to keep that tie going, and we reconvened last month and just really reaffirmed the plan from 2019. It involves, I'll remind you, it revolves around the 5 entrances and exits to the bypass, all except McLeod. I mean, obviously McLeod doesn't have the traffic, the others do. We did ask them, they had somehow moved Airport Road ahead of Higdon Ferry, and we let them know, and we also followed that up, by the way, in the Tri-Lakes committee meeting and policy board meeting, that we very much want Higdon to be first because of all the issues. Obviously, Lake Hamilton or Airport Road's an issue in the mornings and afternoons with school and work getting in and out, but Higdon is an issue all day, every day. Want to send I guess a final thank you, as bad as it hurts, to Dr. Hogan, but I think I mentioned briefly last month the partnership with UA Monticello National Park College, and what a wonderful thing that is to be able to offer 4-year bachelor degrees here in Hot Springs without ever having to leave town. But the really neat story in all that is Dr. Hogan had told Janice Ivers in week 1 10 years ago that my goal is to get bachelor programs for nurses here, and that wound up being the very last thing he did before he moved. And sadly, he has moved on to Indiana, as we know. Not looking for any accolades, but I do want to tell you I'm very proud of our chamber. We were named the best of in the state, and attended a function at AY Magazine put on in Little Rock. For years, we've been saying, boy, it'd be nice if we did things that Conway or Little Rock or Jonesboro Fort Smith did, and I think it's really a testament to our staff and team and a commitment to workforce that we were named to receive this honor. Cole and I have alternated between broadband calls this month. Our MSA group, our local Malvern, Arkadelphia Village Regional Partnership Group, met in Malvern. We've gotten a lot of press this month, as y'all probably saw. Rex Nelson wrote about the ghost on the hill for the Army-Navy Hospital, and also the Sentinel followed that up with his visit to Rotary. The Interior Department needs to save the former hospital. Morgan Wiles was named one of Arkansas Business's 40 under 40. We actually had a pool of 9, submitted 4, but for whatever reason, Morgan was the only one selected. Big news for us in reaching the goal of ACT Work Ready Community. We did hit our 70th company. Our goal was 70. We've made goal, I say we, I'm talking about West Central Planning, Department of Workforce Services. Collectively, we've made our goal in 4 out of 5 categories. We need to administer about 150 more tests to veterans and unemployed folks, and we will be ACT Work Ready Certified. We hosted, in conjunction with Small Business Administration, State Chamber, and Arkansas Capitol, we hosted a small business boost. Like I imagine several of y'all did, we toured Rimmel Dam on their 100th anniversary to celebrate with energy. Attended the Workforce Development Board at National Park College, and then we had a tour of Berry Global. Took vacation this past month, but as I was leaving, Selby with the Governor Sanders' office called to give us a lead on the Army-Navy Hospital. I was literally pulling out of town. I called Dr. Jack Porter and just always thank Jack for his time and effort on this project. But he and Cole subsequently, that was on a Friday afternoon, he and Cole the next Wednesday had a meeting at the Capitol with the governor's staff and a prospect from Louisiana. So we're encouraged by that. Senator McKee, Senator Dismang, and I think, Secretary of Commerce Hugh McDonald was in that meeting as well. So we're hoping to schedule a tour of the facility in the next 2 weeks when the gentleman may be able to come up from Louisiana. Cole and I visited with a gentleman that is in San Diego today, trying to bring a national chain to Hot Springs, and supplied him with plenty of good demographic and business information that hopefully he, it sounded really good. I think we'll get it, but he needed the backup. We hosted not being Hot Springs, not the partnership, but Hot Springs hosted the state broadband conference a couple weeks ago. I just got to brag on our state director, Glenn Howe. He's doing a great job. He came to us from LSU, but they expected 120 folks at this conference. There were 375, and folks from D.C., Boston, Dallas, all over the place, and some real experts in the field. Broke out of there briefly to attend the Board of Realtors luncheon. Heather Vaughn from Lake Hamilton Realty was named Realtor of the Year. Cole and I sat in on a workforce grant webinar through AEDC, and subsequently went to the college and submitted a project with Dr. Wade Durden and Bill Ritter. From there, we continue to inch ever closer to the AEDC annual conference here in Hot Springs at the end of August. Had a meeting on that just right before came here. Cole, Gary, and I presented to the statewide leadership at Crafton and Tull. They were very interested in hearing everything good going on in Hot Springs. Attended the last Board of Trustees meeting with Dr. Hogan. We held a trustee meeting for our 6 largest investors, and the mayor and Bill attended that as well. We had a site visit with Katie Wilson, AAR. Some really exciting news, and we're finalizing it. I told you, I think last month, that we've got a 20-page special section for Arkansas business on Hot Springs, on downtown, on workforce, on Mystic Dan at Oaklawn. Just so many great stories. And Cole has been working on that feverishly. We've got getting proofs back from Arkansas business today, and you can look for that in August. So that'll be a nice exposure. We are going to have and I'm sincere as I can be, because I come to all your meetings and I hear about the meetings that you have and within your district or the city. We're having a lunch and learn on AI with a lady named Allison Lewis. And if you know AI, great. If you don't, this will blow your hair back. It is unbelievable what you can do, and especially you all having to read these ordinances and resolutions, and AI just can get cut to the quick glance, and give you the short version and really what it's all about. So I encourage you all to come July 23rd, and I will conclude, even though this is a June report, Gary and I have lunch on Thursday with the new Mountain Pine Superintendent, Tish Knowles, that's moved here from Earl, Arkansas. I actually just ran into her at lunch yesterday, and she's very excited to be here. If you've ever been to Earl, Arkansas, you probably can imagine why. So that concludes my report. I think Scott's going to come up and talk to you a bit about the Majestic.
Can I ask you something?
Yes, please.
What
Director.
time on July 23rd was
That'll-
at noon or
That'll be
11:30?
11:30 to 1, and lunch will be provided.
And one other, I'm very excited to hear about this potential from Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
And in when you were there, was there any information provided regarding the grant or the funding to the federal agency that was going to provide some funding, for some preliminary?
To my knowledge, we're good on the statewide, which will take care of us in the meantime.
Okay.
I don't have a final word at the federal level from Congressman Westerman.
Okay, I know they had made some communications and getting some information, I just hadn't
Well,
heard.
even better than saying that, the state and the feds are talking.
That is
And that
great
hasn't
news.
happened in a long time.
Right.
So, we'd love to see the money on both sides just to tide us over until we have a permanent solution. But the
Amen.
fact that they're working to arrive at a solution helps tremendously. And I will say that without getting in trouble, where our previous governor just couldn't wait to get rid of the property quick enough, it looks like the state is going to do their part to try to retain it. So that would lend itself, in my mind at least, to maybe not tearing the building down and being able to salvage it in some way.
Exactly. Well, thank you for all the great news.
Thank you, appreciate it.
One more thing.
Let Scott have it, thank you all.
Oh, Director Beard?
Sorry.
Yes. When you said Tish from Earl, Arkansas, if you've ever been to Earl, Arkansas, you'd understand why she would be so happy to be here. What did you mean by that?
What I mean by that is she has had her share of issues up there. If you don't know, in Earl, Arkansas, the previous superintendent was paying teachers cash and not contributing to their retirement. So I didn't mean any slight to Earl, Arkansas. I meant she left a
Okay.
very difficult situation. And I think that, Mountain Pine's going to be a challenge. I mean, let's be honest. Out of our 7 schools, sometimes they've got some work to do on their scores and their school rating. But I think she's going to be up to the task.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon, thank you.
Hi, Scott. Welcome.
Since our my last update to you, we've had communication with both of the 2 prospects that we've mentioned to you. Both have expressed a continued interest in the site. We've not been able to schedule a site visit with that second one that I told you about. I think last time I said I'd hope to have that done before this meeting. We've not been able to, maybe the holidays, but we're still working to do that. We've also had 3 meetings with David French, our local architect, the first to kind of articulate our vision to him, and then we've had 2 meetings since where they've had drafts that we've critiqued, provided feedback, and they've gone back and kind of made some revisions. So we expect probably within a month that we'll have another one. We met with him last week and asked him, kind of a reasonable time frame, not wanting to push, but still, keeping it at the front of his mind. He said about a month, and we feel like we'll need that meeting maybe to make some final revisions. We don't feel like we're at a point where we're going to say that's it, but maybe within 2 months we hope to have those. So we've had positive meetings. They've done a lot of work on it, and the excitement within our group just continues to build as we kind of see what we've envisioned going to, being put on paper. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Scott? Director Webb, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So November's coming up pretty soon, and that's the renewal time period of your contract, and particularly this amendment for the Majestic. How do you see this Majestic site maturing between now and then? I know you're speaking to us on the renderings and the drawings, and that should help as far as marketing goes, to get, I guess, more onlookers and more potential developers to have keen interest in the Majestic site. But besides the renderings, where do you see this site maturing, especially with those 2 that you already kind of have on the hook?
Yeah, and you're talking about with respect, I guess, between now and the end of our renewal?
Right.
So, we've not talked about that specifically within our group, but I think we hosted the first prospect last November, and if we roll around to this November without anything concrete, I feel like that's indication that they're not going to be in. We'd love to get the second one here between now and then, obviously, for a site visit. But as I told you, I guess a few months ago when we started the rendering process and kind of the cultivation of that local investor list, that was our plan for if these 2 didn't materialize, because we cast a pretty wide net when we took over in November of '22. There was not any interest. So then we began using our connections to, to bring some people to the table that resulted in the first group that we talked about. I feel like the sign generated the second, and both of those have expressed excitement. So if we're not further down the road with either of those groups by November, I would think we would probably move on to assembling kind of the local investor list.
Those renderings or drawings, Scott, are once they're at a level of satisfaction by the Metro, are those going to be made public?
Yeah,
too?
we'll share those with you.
Okay.
I mean, because that's something that we're going to be taking out to, to generate more interest. But we do feel like there's a group of local investors, at least a handful, that have expressed interest in being a part of it, and they've got resources to do something significant there, or at least be a part of it, a part of an entity that would. So I would feel like that's our, just as I kind of think out loud here, that's probably where we go. But we would hope to, when we request renewal, which I fully intend to do, I mean, our group's committed to it. I've said, outside of our jobs, we're all more dedicated to this project than anything else we're working on. And so we want to see this through to completion. So we will request renewal, but we would hope to have something more concrete with those two prospects when we do.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Scott.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott, Gary. Appreciate it very much. With that, we will move into your agenda itself. As previously stated, it is a relatively light agenda. The first item up on the consent agenda section is consider resolution R24-132, a resolution acknowledging receipt of the City of Hot Springs financial statements for May 2024. And we have Karen Scott, our finance director.
Good afternoon. As you all know, monthly financial statements are issued to keep city management and constituents apprised of the financial condition of the City of Hot Springs. The May 2024 financial statements will be linked to your board action request, and staff recommends acknowledging receipt of the May 2024 financial statements.
Any questions of Karen? Thank you.
Lance, if I might, I put at your place the 2023 Act First, so proud of this. Kyle Elmore with Forvis will be here at the August 6th meeting to make his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. The next item up on the consent agenda section is Resolution R24-133, a resolution approving change order number 4 to contract number 2 with Belk Construction for the raw water supply pipeline as part of the Lake Ouachita Water Supply Project, coming in at $20,783. We have Todd Pillar, our major capital projects manager, here to present.
Welcome.
Hi, look. Good afternoon. This is the smallest board item I've ever brought. $20,000? Anyway, I had to laugh about that. This is for our intake structure out at this, we call it the South Portal, where the Michaels Tunnel comes out of the mountain on the south side on Blakely Dam Road. And it's to house the Brown Engineering RTU that's going to take our flow rate, pressure, temperature, alkalinity, and take all that and provide it through SCADA, we call it RTU, to Cody and Chase at the existing Ouachita water plant. It'll go to the new water plant, and it'll go to Monty Ledbetter and everybody down on Adams Street, so they can all look at it, what water is coming through the mountain. And the reason for the change, I had to bring it to the board, because the original change order for contract 2 was for them to do the 900 feet from the Michaels 48-inch valve down to the Blakely Dam Road. It was a $1.5 million change order on their $9.2 million original contract. So It'll be coming out of the, again, out of the 2023 Water Bond Fund. And, again, it's a whopping $20,783.62.
Any questions of Todd? Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. The final item we have is an ordinance on new business. It's ordinance 02422. This is an ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 7 of the Hot Springs Code by adopting new parking rates as part of the Hot Springs Parking Management and Implementation Plan and for other purposes. And I'll be taking care of this one, Mayor. As the title indicates, this is an ordinance to adjust those parking rates. The existing, to bring everybody on the same sheet of music, the board, of course, has approved the contract with IPS for the parking kiosks, the space monitoring at the Exchange Street parking garage, and additionally with the parking application. So what this does is amend those parking rates that have been in place, I think, since 96 or 98. So they've been there for quite some time. The parking rates that are being proposed are part of the Walker Parking Management Implementation Plan that was presented to the board just about a year ago. And within that particular plan, they proposed to have basically two tiered rates, priority zone and then secondary zone. So as the name indicates, the priority zones are those along Bathhouse Row, Central Avenue, Cross Street, so we're talking about Court, Reserve, Spring Street. Those would come in at $2 per hour, and there would be a maximum parking session of 2 hours in total. The secondary parking spaces, which would include essentially all the remaining surface lots, Hill Wheatley Plaza, the Exchange Street parking garage, the Craighead parking, Church Street parking, and those would come in at $1 per hour, and there would be no maximum parking session. So essentially, they're able to park unlimited time. The enforcement piece will be 6 days a week, and it will be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Kind of to give you a little idea, the current parking rates enforcement, it's 5 days a week, so no Saturday, Sunday, and it goes from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And of course, those are the coin-operated meters that we have in the downtown. As part of this parking project, we will be removing the coin-operated meters, the meter heads themselves, and the approximately 18 kiosks. Pay kiosks will be presented throughout the downtown area, offering additionally that parking application to pay. There will be a map in your packet, so there's going to be quite a bit of information in your packet to kind of give you a visual of where we're talking about for the priority parking and secondary parking. And really what we're looking to do is to bring this parking implementation plan to fruition. It's been a long time coming. Staff's been working pretty diligently on this particular portion, and it is obviously one of the board's multi-year goals, and we want to see that through. And obviously, the parking fund itself, the revenues that those parking meters, the existing ones, provide, do not support the overall expenses of the parking fund. So really, what we're looking to do is to bring the parking fund into a little bit more of a self-sustaining manner, but additionally to provide additional revenue for the maintenance that comes with the various parking facilities, but also to look at the possible addition of parking supply by adding facilities, multi-structure, multi-floor parking garages like what we have with the Exchange Street parking garage. So the plan is to reinvest those revenues, but first and foremost, we do need to amend the parking rates to bring them into current day, and to do that in a manner that's very consistent with what Walker Consultants presented to the public about a year ago. So with that, I will certainly entertain any questions you may have.
Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. In our packets, would you include assurance that the handicap parking is still going to meet the requirements and needs of ADA, and as well, if they have to use a kiosk, that the handicapped people will be able to use it?
Yes.
That it's user-friendly for those that are handicapped. One of the complaints I received on our parking meters, someone handicapped can't get, because of how the
Yeah.
parking is, they can't get to the meters to put money in. And so I think what had been happening, as long as they had their handicap marker there, they weren't penalized for not being able to get to the meter to put money in, because how those bump ups are between the parking place and there in some of our locations. So I'm mindful of all of the handicapped residents and tourists that might find some of the places difficult if they don't use the iPhones or smartphones to be able to do that online. Then they would be using the kiosk, and just want to make sure they're user-friendly. If you'll include anything regarding that in our packets.
Certainly. I've got some of that information here with me, but I'll certainly,
Yeah, just so it's in our packets. Thank you.
yeah.
Now, are we rolling this out in phases?
Yes.
As far as the locations that the kiosks will be established?
Yeah, really where we're at with the kiosk, we have received most of the materials for the installation. There are some things that we're waiting to receive. They told us it would take about 6 to 8 weeks to get everything in, and they've been storing them at Traffic Services. We're still lacking a couple of the components. One of them in particular I know of is the LED signage for the Exchange Street parking garage for the monitoring component. But additionally, what the intent is to take the time period from, if the board does adopt these particular rates, to do a big educational outreach piece for our downtown visitors and downtown merchants, so that we're able to effectively roll this out. But certainly for it to be a phased approach, we're going to start small. Really what we're looking at within those priority spaces, you're talking about approximately 300 spaces, and then in the secondary, it's approximately 600. So in the grand scheme of things, it's about a third of the parking, public and private, across in the downtown area that we would be transitioning into this paid parking management system. So when you talk about large scale, when people talk about parking and the lack of parking, we do have parking. It's just spread out in a lot of different locations, and the vast majority of it currently is free. But I think that also plays into the accessibility of it, because if public parking is free, essentially we're devaluing those private parking lots that are out there. And I do want to say our rates that we're proposing, we will not be competing with those private businesses. I kind of did a quick survey, and I think it went from a high of about $8 per hour to approximately a $2 per hour rate. So we're certainly not in competition with them, but at the same time, we want to be there to offer some support to them and probably enhance the parking experience. But there was one component that I did fail to mention, and it's an important one because it was one of Walker Consultants' probably larger comments as part of their survey and through their outreach. It is the employee discount program. They have the ability to essentially, the business owners and managers are able to have an account with Walker, where they are able to enter the license plate numbers of the employees that they wish to, whoever works for them, and they are eligible for up to a 60% discount in those secondary spaces. So approximately 60 cents per hour would be the discount for that particular area, and we think that's a certainly something that can be of benefit to the employees, because we do not want to push them too far afield, but we certainly, those priority spaces are the ones that we want to utilize for the quicker turnover, and generally for those looking for quicker trips and the visitor population. So that's something that we're glad to offer. And the employee discount program, I think we've discussed it with the downtown merchants, but we certainly want to make sure that that is communicated directly to them so they kind of understand how the process works.
Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Well, first, Lance, I want to thank you on what you just shared with us, because that was my question. I have down in this ordinance amendment or original or local businesses downtown or closely surrounding areas given the opportunity to purchase parking spots at a reduced rate for their employees, and you definitely touched on that. And I like that we're moving in that direction to continue to promote downtown jobs and support our local businesses. So kudos to city staff for Hot Springs for doing that. The second point was in our packets. Can you include for us a map of these parking spots?
We will.
Kind of what's happening in phase 1, what's happening in phase 2, and so forth?
Yes.
Okay,
I will
thank
do
you.
it.
Now, as far as street parking, that doesn't have a meter and a cost, so parking up Prospect Avenue, and what, Market Street?
Yeah.
What about the upper end of Fountain Street?
We really did not try to get into the residential portions, Prospect Market. Really tried to stay in those immediate areas right off of Central Avenue, Malvern Avenue, Washita, and those general areas. But as far as Fountain Street, the entirety of Fountain Street that is currently metered would be considered secondary parking. But there's actually a couple different private lots that are up there. And there's and I'll include in the packet as well, the number of unregulated public spaces, and include the number of unregulated private spaces as well, because that's a very large number. And I know several different private parking lot owners have started to offer monthly parking for employees at a pretty reasonable rate. But we certainly want to do our part with the employee discount program, but certainly want to kind of grow into the program. So we're starting, what I would say, in a measured approach, and hopefully it'll go smoothly. I think it will.
Very good. Any further questions? That concludes the action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday evening, July 16th, right here at City Hall, starting at 6 p.m. So enjoy your evening and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.